Welcome back to Viewmasters. Rusty, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Our film today is Turbo Kid, a movie you've been pushing a long time.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm excited to finally be doing this one.
You know, this film takes place in a desolate, barren landscape, and when I first watched it, it was sci-fi. Now, it's reality.
It's true. Very true.
Coronavirus, it's crazy. There's like so much less traffic, so much less people on the street. They just canceled South by Southwest.
I know.
And Rusty, can you guess my first thought when I heard that?
No, I cannot. Tell me.
My first thought was, I've got to put on South by Southwest in my apartment.
I think it could be done. I think you have the resources to do it.
I went to my neighbor. My neighbor, I've never talked to my neighbor before. I knocked on my neighbor's door, and I was like, "Hey, can this be the new media tent?" And he was like, "Excuse me?" And I was like, "Can this be the new media tent?" And he's like, "Honey, the crazy guy's here at the door. He's asking if this could be the new media tent."
Now, have you checked the HOA rules on this? Is it allowed?
No, everyone's gonna love it. There's one guy in my floor who's like the only person with like a family, and he's like a always pissed off looking guy, like in a doctor's outfit. I always want to say, "What happened? The patient didn't make it," but I feel like he'd strangle me. But he's gonna come walking down the hall and see like a super long line and be like, "What the hell is this?" And I'll be like, "I know." And he's like, "This is unacceptable." And I'm like, "I know. They could have added the platinum badge to their app. It's just another $600. I could have swiped them right through. They could have been inside already." And he's like, "This can't happen." I'm like, "I know. We got to get them processed. This guy just pissed in the hallway." I don't know, but it's a crazy world out there.
You know, the funny thing is, if you watch the news or you read some articles, it seems like it's absolute mayhem. Like it just zombie apocalypse happening. But then you go out into the real world and you go into stores or you go into restaurants. And nobody gives a fuck.
Really? I'm seeing a lot less people, though. I got to say that. The volume of people is very much diminished.
I did notice that today on some errands that I ran. So I don't know what I'm talking about.
I was running some errands. People were mistaking me for the Omega Man. That's how empty things were. I'm already talking to. I mean, my God, if I had a bust of Caesar or whatever the thing is he talks throughout that movie, that would be my life.
Well, I mean, Turbo Kid, man, it's ideal. So maybe you could make your own apple and have that companion as you.
Oh my God, yeah.
Venture into the wasteland of downtown LA.
I'm working on it. I've got a broom. I've got a pile of circuit boards. I don't know. Turbo Kid, what a great film. What a great time we had watching it. And please rate and review the show.
You know they're not going to.
They never do.
Have a heart.
Have a heart.
This
could be the end of the world. We're living through the end of the world. I want to hit 100 reviews before the end.
This could be a very special episode, our last episode. Who knows?
Our very last episode. They didn't survive to get to Ghoulies. This is tragic.
Maybe we will become ghoulies in the process.
You know, Bernie Sanders, he says college should be free for everyone. I say, what about the ghoulies? Okay.
Well, Turbo Kid, here we go. All right, so after the voiceover introduction, there's an awesome sequence. I know you probably don't remember the film that well, but there's an awesome sequence that really gets the party started for this movie. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The BMX sequence.
Yeah. So the Turbo Kid, he's scavenging the wasteland, but he's getting some major air.
That's how I would do it.
But the soundtrack of his life is playing the Thunder in Your Heart song by John Farnham, which is also featured in the Rad movie. I don't know if you remember that movie well. But,
yeah, I remember. I've never heard it called The Rad movie, but I do remember the film Rad.
Well, it's a rad movie. It's the Rad movie. But speaking of rad moves, did you have any experiences on your BMX bike as a kid?
I did. I remember one time I used to play this game. You ever play that game where you ride your bikes on a basketball court and like you'd have to cut in front of people, and whoever put their foot down was like out of the game?
I've never heard of that game.
Well, one time I put the handlebars right into my balls, and I just fell on the ground screaming.
Oh man, what did the person do that you were challenging?
Uh, they all just looked at me awkwardly.
Yeah, nobody has sympathy for when you get hit in the balls when you're young.
Yeah,
Probably when
no,
you're old too.
kids. Yeah, kids have no sense of sympathy or empathy or whatever. Pathy.
Empathy. Uh, uh,
Well, what about
yeah,
you? You seem like you must have had some really big BMX experiences.
I feel like I had like a trick and not just a bunny hop. I had the wheelie, but I never developed more than that. Like this was a time where like you could do some street moves, some really good like sequences, and I couldn't do
Hmm.
anything. I never like really focused on one specific trick. But somebody did randomly build like a BMX dirt track in the woods near where I lived,
Hmm.
and it had some ramps and stuff. And it had this huge ramp that kids would do like pretty good aerial moves on it. And there was a kid I was kind of friends with that they dared him to do like a flip, and he did it, and he landed on his head.
Oh
And I
no.
swear everybody thought he broke his neck because he was motionless for like a minute or so. He turned out to be okay, just like really shaken up, but that was a pretty intense moment.
I remember this story because you guys just started burying him immediately, right?
Yeah.
You'd had shovels to build the ramps, and you're like, just start burying him. He's like, no, no. He's like the kid in Troll 2. I'm not dead.
Oh, man, imagine that's like the secret that we growed up all
Oh
sharing. Like,
wow,
there's a
yeah.
kid buried out there.
We should
I,
reclaim that trail for your daughter. These are all things we could justify for your kid. We'll be like, hey Jen, yeah, we got to go rebuild that BMX trail for the kid.
but with Turbo Kid, you know what I was kind of hoping for, since it is a little bit of Mad Max meets Rad,
Yeah. Whoa. Well said.
and I was secretly hoping for a BMX dance scene between Apple and the kid, much like remember the Rad scene at like the prom or the dance.
I ever? Yeah. Hugely.
Imagine that scene in this movie with Semi and Angel playing. How epic would that be?
Wow. This is. I'm gonna be like. Was it Kim Jong Il or his like father who like kidnapped the director and like made them make a movie? I'm gonna kidnap Apple and the Turbo Kid and make them film that sequence.
I feel like if you become more and more successful, you should just have a vanity project like that. Just something completely nonsensical. That would appeal to me. Just
Yeah.
something
All
for
right.
me.
That's a good idea. I will do that. I have something
Doesn't
to
have
work towards.
the budget could be like $5,000. You could do something with that.
Oh yeah.
I'll
Believe
fund
me,
it.
I know that.
Jen will be like, "You depleted your life savings for what?" And like, trust me, it's gonna be huge.
It's a scene from Rad with the people from Turbo Kid. They're in their 40s now, but they still can pull some moves.
Yeah. But the Turbo Kid, he's living the life that we all dream of. He's got no rules. He's
Oh yeah.
completely free spirited. A little bit dateless though. That's the one downside.
Yeah.
Actually, he's also lacking in the parent department. But man, imagine just having your bike and cruising around collecting shit. Nothing else to worry about.
That would be pretty awesome, but it seems like he's got a very small area that he operates in. That's the only bummer.
I'm sure both of us would find something to worry about. We could never be worry free.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've seen this movie a few years ago, and I really loved it. Ever since we started the podcast, I wanted to pick it at some point.
I've had this movie on in the background so much because I just love the vibe it sets, but just as a result, I have no idea when anything takes place because it's just always been happening for the last 5 days.
Oh, I love to hear it. I love to hear it from our movie expert and just paying attention to our pay. Well, what did you learn from this experience?
I just I don't know. I have nothing to say to that.
The movie is so simplistic that you can turn it off and you could leave the room and do whatever and come back and resume it. And you don't really miss a beat.
It's it's a comic book.
What's it about?
It's about Turbo Rider.
That's rad.
This is actually, I've got a huge personal connection to this film, Rusty.
Oh, go on.
This was submitted to be a part of the ABCs of Death, the anthology movie that I had a segment in, or produced a segment in, the letter D.
Mm-hmm.
They had a contest to be the letter T. This was one of the finalists, but didn't make it, T for Turbo. But then the producer, Ant Timpson, said to these three directors, hey, why don't you expand that into a feature? And they did.
Isn't one of the producers of this movie also involved with the ABCs of Death? Isn't like Jason Eisner?
I think so, yeah. He also made Hobo with a
Yeah,
Shotgun.
yeah.
And then two other of the producers in the film were the producers of the film where I shit my pants with blood.
It always comes back to that.
It always comes back to that. I was like, look at all these familiar names.
Wait, so you know some of these people?
Oh yeah, dude, I got stories. These two guys will always be in my mind because I was with them on election day. And I told one of them that I was going to start a left-wing terror group. This is election day 2016. And he didn't know me well enough how to react to that. He was like totally confused. I'd explained to him what a left-wing terror group was, first of all. Then I had to explain to him that I was just joking. Then I'd explain that maybe I would do it, though, if he was down.
So where did you leave that conversation? How ambiguous were you?
I just ran into the woods.
There has to be a point in this person's life that he told someone about this conversation, right?
He's like, I'm haunted to this day. Like, I worry. Like, if he was serious, I could have stopped him.
It's like all the people that knew Ted Kaczynski. Like they could have been you. So
I remember, and it was the same day as Trump's election, the same day after Trump's election, we're on set, and he turns to me out of nowhere, this guy, and he's like, Ed, how would you commit the perfect murder? And I'm like, I guess I would find someone that society doesn't care about, and then have them commit the murder, and then I'd kill them after. And he's like, what? Now you're killing two people. That's not the perfect murder. And I was like, no, that's how you do it. And I was like, well, what do you think's the perfect murder? And he's like, an icicle. You stab someone with an icicle through the eye. The murder weapon, it melts. And I was like, Jesus, what are you, 10 years old? I remember reading that in like one of those mystery books or whatever.
Yeah, I've done it. Haven't been caught yet.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
It does work. It's perfect crime. Wait, so I like though in your example that you still get your hands dirty though. You still want to get some blood on your hands.
Well, I'm assuming the person I'd be committing the perfect murder from I'd have the motive. I have to get someone who didn't know them at all to do it.
Yeah. People listening are like, he's joining a left-wing terror group. He's planning out a murder. He's bald.
If ever we do a live podcast, it'd be like, oh, this is Ed's alibi. That's the only reason they're doing a live episode.
Oh man, that's funny. You know what I wonder though about those people that hire a hitman? Like you see those Dateline stories where a person hires a hitman to kill their spouse, and then it turns out to be an undercover cop, and they get arrested. How many times do you think the person hiring hitman turns out to be legit, and their spouse actually does die under mysterious circumstances?
There's no real hitman. That's the sad truth about life. It's all fake.
Yeah, the thing I would have no idea how to hire a hitman. I feel like I would have better luck hiring Brett the Hitman Hart.
I think you have to find your sketchiest friend and then just keep ruining their life so they can become more and more desperate. And then a year later, you're like, hey man, you've got nowhere else to turn. I've got a good idea for you. And they're like, was this the plan the whole time?
So you got to vet somebody to become the hitman?
Well, you got to break them down. You got to leave them with no other options.
What the hell do you think you're doing? Huh? You can't just walk into a man's personal bubble.
Just such a great example of I don't know, a film that you could tell was made with love, has no resources, but makes it work.
I love that it's also very nostalgic of 80s culture and music and everything, but it's not in your face. It's not over the top.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel fake. It feels fun.
Yeah, like you said, it's just very genuine. And I love just the opening scene with the Thunder in Your Heart song playing. It pulls you in with such energy. Now, what did you actually think of the look of Turbo Kid?
The look of Turbo Kid, the way his outfit and everything?
Yeah, you're in the wasteland by yourself. Nobody's looking at you, so you don't really give a fuck. Would you wear something like that?
Oh, no. I think we've already established that I'd be more like the Skeletor guy. If you're in a wasteland and you don't wear a really threatening mask, it's what are you even doing?
So if you dress like a hero, you're not going to make it that long.
Well, whether or not you're going to make it or not, who knows? But you're just not going to look cool.
Well, I mean, when he goes to Bartertown, I mean, people are always giving him evil eyes. They're always like
Yeah.
checking him out. It's amazing that this kid hasn't been mugged as soon as he's left.
He kind of had like a laser tag feel, you know? You know, when laser tag first came out, if someone had said to me, Ed, you're never going to have the full outfit, I would have been depressed. But the irony is that, Rusty, you have the laser tag helmet to this day.
Yeah, I do. It's on
Well,
display.
anyway.
It's in the record room. But now, how quickly would you slap that outfit on if you had a chance to hang out with Apple?
I love Apple. She's the best character.
She is the best character. I like the kid as well.
No, I like them all. But I love Apple. She's really funny. I'm actually trying to build my own Apple.
I would love to see what that looks like. Apple.
You know how bad I am with technology and machines and building things.
I think you're one step below the kid with duct tape. Like I've just pictured you with like a roll of masking tape trying to get shit to stick together.
I remember there was a science fair in like elementary school, and I'm sure I couldn't have done anything good anyway.
Yeah.
But I wanted to build a robot. I had this whole idea that I was going to build a robot, or a wobot, as I'm sure I called it. And what my robot ended up being in the end was just a milk carton covered in tinfoil.
I really thought robotics was possible as a little kid, like a second grader. But it was always from the outside in. I always thought if I could build like the exoskeleton part, I could get the electronics, even though I didn't know what the electronics consisted of. Well, what you could have done is taken a kid and shoved him inside your robot outfit and then be like, oh, Bobby Lolly moved. He moved to Florida. I guess it's kind of like that South Park episode, but whatever. But I'm in on it this time. Yeah, you're in on it. Nice. Now, with your robot, what big plans did you have for your robot? Was it to serve mankind or to speak bocce? What were you doing with this thing? More to be like my right-hand man as I had a conquest of mankind. Like if you were bullied, you would just turn to your robot sidekick, handle it. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It'd be a lot like the monkey from Monkey Shines. I'm referencing that every day.
I don't know, but you know what the craziest memory of that science fair is? I
shit your pants.
I remember my brother, I remember my brother had like a diorama, and he had put Star Wars figures in the diorama to have like it was like about space, and I remember he had a tall snaggletooth, and it was stolen on that day.
That was before they were valuable too. That kid walked into a gold mine.
And you know, they're making Knives Out too. That could be a good idea for the plot. Rian Johnson returns to Star Wars.
Did you know they're also making Turbo Kid 2 finally?
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know though. I don't know if a second one could work. I feel like this movie's solid on its own.
Oh yeah.
Like I think I would go into it with high expectations, and it would, no matter what, it'd fall flat. Like you can't replicate what you have in this movie.
Now, Rusty, this movie has 3 directors. That's a party.
That I was surprised to see that.
It's funny, guys. I was talking to a record label today about a music video, and they were like, "Oh, but if you do this, you have to. It's in Canada, and the artist gets grants from the Canadian government, so you have to collaborate with a Canadian director. Do you know any Canadian directors?" And I was like, let me think. And then I could not think of a single Canadian except for these 3 directors of Turbo Kid. And I was like, don't say that. Don't say that. And I was like, that'd be crazy anyway. It'd be 4 directors then. That's like we're rolling in. It's a huge crowd.
Oh, how would you work that? 4 directors? Like you would be butting heads with so many things.
Well, speaking of butting heads, did you see that one of the directors is bald?
I did see that. Johann Carl Whistle.
And according to IMDb, he likes to give hugs at the Q&A.
He does.
Yeah, I hate that. I don't like that at all.
You don't like hugs?
I hate hugs. I hate hugs.
Wait, what did hugs ever do to you?
Nothing much, you know.
Just hanging around the wrong crowd.
Just hanging around with the wrong crowd. I recently, I don't know what happened, but I recently hugged former guest Bria, and she was Bria Grant. And she was like, whoa, what happened? We never hug. And I was like, oh, yeah, that was definitely felt strange.
Yeah, I noticed that you're not a hugger. I've noticed for many years, and I've actually told people
Yeah.
that we're meeting you for the first time. He's not a hugger, so don't try that on him.
Yeah, exactly. I'm more like, you can hand me a letter.
What else?
I will reply in several weeks.
What happened to you as a kid that you're not into hugs?
I don't. I think it would ruin the mood of this podcast.
Look at this. I admire your spirit, but your story has come to an end.
Last night, I witnessed very tense for me.
Go on.
So I went to a play last night. The only reason I went was because it was directed by Armin Shimmerman, who you might recognize as Quark from Deep Space Nine. And it was Measure for Measure by William Shakespeare himself. So I go to this. It's 2.5 hours, and I've never like, if it was Macbeth, I know it well enough. I could have followed it, but I don't know anything about Measure for Measure. I was like, they might as well be speaking Hungarian. I was like, I am not picking up anything, and the theater was really empty except for old people, and like there's only like 10 or maybe 15 people there, and I'm sitting dead center, like second row, eye level with all the actors, and everyone else is kind of out to the side. So every actor was making eye contact with me, especially one guy who was clearly his technique to make eye contact with me. So every speech was delivered right at me. And I was like, I just got to hold this guy's eye contact. This is fucking insane. And he's just saying gibberish. But I noticed that Quark was sitting like next to me and behind me a little bit. And he was eating Fritos, which they sell at the, I wouldn't call it a concession stand, but by the ticket area. And every time he reached into the Frito bag, it would make a sound. Now, the old guy in front of him and his wife kept doing like a herky-jerky motion. And it was clearly building to a confrontation. And I was like, Quark, how many Fritos are in that fucking bag? I got Reese's. It was gone in like less than 5 seconds. He's got the Fritos going the whole time. He's the director. I totally supported him in this. But finally, the guy snapped and was like, put down the damn bag! And Quark goes, okay.
You keep describing the director as Quark from Star Trek, but for those who are too lazy to look him up, how would you describe Quark? The character,
Quark,
not the...
Yeah, he's like the main Ferengi guy. He's really short. And he's like Ferengi. I mean, that's like, he's like the swindling guy on Deep Space Nine who like runs the bar and is always getting into it with Odo.
Sounds like you're describing me.
Not even close. You wish.
So wait, did you actually like his Star Trek character?
Oh yeah, I'm like the biggest Quark enthusiast. I love Quark. But you know who I love even more? And that is the skeleton guy whose name I can't remember from Turbo Kid.
The character's name was Skeletron, but he's played by Edwin Wright. I don't recognize him from anything else. But that guy doesn't have...
I recognize myself in that. I was like, I could play this.
Oh yeah. I said this a while ago, but I would love to cosplay that character.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
If I commissioned you and I gave you $5,000 to create it for me, what would I be getting?
If you gave me $5,000 to make the costume, you'd be getting a great $500 costume, but I'd be getting a $4,500 profit. That is called producing. This is great. I've already got that money in the bank. You said it. They heard it.
I would love to see you make that yourself, not hire anybody. And go to like a convention and people would see you like, oh, look at this 40-year-old. It's really sad.
The bitter irony is I'd end up getting hugged by the Turbo Kid director. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be hugged. It's like, come here.
You know what I didn't like about the Skeletron character, though? Or the look? What? The one thing I didn't like was the jockstrap.
I didn't even notice it.
Oh, really? It was like hanging off him a bit. I don't know. I always just had an adverse reaction to jockstraps. I just never was into them.
This is really only for me and you, but we have mentioned him on the podcast before. But didn't he remind you of our old friend Eric? When I saw Skeletron, I was like, "Is that what happened to Eric?" He moved away and he joined like a post-apocalyptic gang. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing a lot of plundering.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like, what you been up to? Like on Facebook, you look him up. He's like, he's in the Skeletron outfit.
I got like a little soda bottle full of gas. I'm saving up for my retirement.
Did gasoline even exist in that movie?
Well, that's how precious it would be. It's like, I've got like a Diet Dr. Pepper sized bottle.
That guy doesn't have one line of dialogue, and yet he's such a great character.
Yeah, he does a great job of acting underneath the mask and just like the way he moves his body.
There's a moment when in the flashback scene with Turbo Kid where he sees his parents get killed, and the Skeletron guy cuts his dad in like a crosshatch pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And the dad falls apart. And as he's like falling apart, the guy's just emoting with such excitement. It's great to look at. So the next time you have it on, look for that moment.
I will.
It's just like an ecstasy as the guy's falling apart.
For some reason, I always thought this was a roller skating movie, not a BMX movie. Don't ask me why.
It's so random that it's BMX. Like that's the means of transportation during the post-apocalypse. But I like it though.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty consistent because you don't see any electricity in the whole movie, right?
You see power lines, but I don't think they do anything.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know how many people have seen this movie, so maybe we should set it up. Basically, do you want to say what it's about?
Yeah, it's a kid is in like a Mad Max style wasteland. Although it's very much it's like a Mad Max style wasteland, but with a Terminator backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree? Like, it isn't like they kind of hint that robots killed off all the people.
You know, do you think the robots did any good before they wiped out humanity? Like, did they wipe out student debt?
Oh, they must have done a lot of great things, and there must have
Like-
been a lot of robots that people were like attached to that were very friendly robots. Like, you know, like if all the robots in the galaxy of Star Wars turned on the humans, like C-3PO, those eyes turned red, and they're just like, oh man, not again.
It'd be nice though if you know you're gonna be killed by a series of robots. It's just like, well, at least I own my own house now. Going down, being debt free.
Yeah, exactly. So it's basically this kid is wandering the wastelands. He meets a friendly robot, Apple, who's like a kind of like a manic pixie dream girl type, but very lovable. And they have adventures against Zeus, who is played by Michael Ironside and is kind of like the Morton Joe of this world, but a very small scale.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid rides a BMX. Oh, and eventually he finds the suit of, I guess I'm telling the whole movie, but of Turbo, who's a superhero, and he gets like a power glove.
Yeah.
Like Nintendo Power Glove, but it has like powers.
I found it interesting though that like he's really into this character, the Turbo Rider character, like the comic books and like the look, his aesthetic. And it turns out there's a real character that he comes across in the spaceship. Now, would you, if you in your fantasy world, if you came across a superhero's transportation in his outfit, which superhero would you want to come across?
I have to make it very practical because while I'd love to find Spider-Man's dead body, Spider-Man, you could get those like if he had the inorganic web shooters.
Yeah,
but you want a superhero with some good gear.
Yeah, like Punisher or something like that.
Oh, well, I could order Punisher's guns off Amazon. I mean, I no, like if I found Thanos dead and he had like the Infinity Gauntlet, but that's a cheap example.
Aim high. He's aiming so high.
I want some, or you know, it's like the X-Men plane. I get that, but I'm like, I gotta find a pilot.
But you're not a mutant though, so would you have any of those abilities? Like if you just found like Storm's outfit, would you pop that on?
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. I don't want that. I want like they gotta have some good accessories or like a wallet full of cash.
I think you need like a villain's character because like a lot of times they had to create their own shit.
Oh yeah, maybe Dr. Doom. I think all his powers come from his. Yeah, dude, I'll find his outfit and I'll just replace him.
I love that image. Imagine that. Like, have you heard about Ed? He became the evil overlord, Eddie Doom.
Oh yeah. I mean, that is like in the superhero universe, like where people are subbing in as like the new Iron Man is this guy. Like there has to be people like who are like, oh, remember the guy we went to school with? Like, man, he's the new Silver Surfer.
It's like he's not so bad. He just preaches about rating and reviewing his podcast.
Yeah, he like lives in a castle alone.
At least you would never have to worry about your hair.
Oh yeah. No, I'm going to leave the helmet on. Are you sure, sire? Yes, I'll leave the helmet on. Just go to bed.
You make me cry.
Leave the barbarian pretzel by the door.
Sounds a little like Obama.
Oh yeah. I saw that Postmates, thanks to coronavirus, has like a new option where you could just get the food delivered. They could just leave it at the door and like not interact with you. And I was like, wow, at least something good came out of this.
You know what I was wondering about this movie, though? And I wonder about a lot of movies that make references to pop culture. Does it actually exist in the world, or is it just like coincidence? Like, for example, when Apple's training the kid how to fight, and she says the Karate Kid line.
Strike first, strike hard, show no mercy.
People watching it know that's from Karate Kid, but since she's a robot or an android, is she aware of that from just like having those things downloaded into her? Or is it coincidence?
I always struggle with this in other movies. Like when they'll mention a movie and you're like, okay, so does that mean that George Clooney exists in this? Because then, but in the case of this movie, I think that was not an accident. That's like a reference, but I don't think she's aware of Karate Kid.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of subtle things too, like when she just says "rad," referencing, I guess, referencing "rad" since the BMX stuff.
The way she delivers that line is really good. The performance by her is great.
Oh, she's so charismatic, like it's infectious. Like you just wish you could hang out with somebody like that.
And her name is it Laurence LaBouffe or something like that?
I think it's Laurence LaBouffe, right?
Yeah. But I thought when I first saw it and hadn't looked it up yet, I thought that that was the name of the Turbo Kid.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it must be Shia LaBeouf's brother. And then the whole movie, I was just like, oh, you can kind of tell. You can kind of tell he's got that same jawline as Shia LaBeouf. And then at the end, I was like, that was even the right person.
Oh, if you could have an android like Apple, how quickly before you're in a relationship with her?
I don't know. First of all, I could exist with the android and just be friends, but
always wanting more.
The ideal android would be like an Apple type.
Yeah, but I mean, like even Turbo Kid was charmed by her.
My God, Turbo Kid! The whole subtext of his performance is like, "Can I bang a robot?"
Wait, can you? I have a friend that wants to know.
No, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of awkward conversations he'd have with Apple, where he's like, "And what what do they do? Like, is the anatomy completely real, or what model number?"
How old do you think the Turbo Kid is supposed to be? Like 16, 17?
Yeah, I think so.
How come he has no friends except Bagu, the like barterer?
Well, because like everyone's dead. I think that was reasonable.
Yeah, but I mean, like the Wasteland. It's obviously you have the Zeus gang, and then you have like Frederick the Cowboys gang. So if you're living in this world, you probably know of these people, right?
Oh yeah.
So
well, I mean, even though I love the film, the Wasteland feels about the size of Cedar Creek Park.
It really does.
So you're like, oh, there's only like 30 people in this very small area.
But is it just like you steer clear of those people because both sides are probably pretty shitty?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So he managed to make it that long in his life, surviving on his own, scavenging for food and collectibles. You think like, but the Wasteland's so small, you think he would have pretty much obtained everything he could have.
It's true. What was Link doing before the game?
Was he really foraging for new spots? Like after 16 years, like he's still finding a mint Rubik's Cube. Like how's that possible?
Rubik's Cube, I was always horrible at that as a child. I was like, I would try for like a few minutes and then just be like, get nowhere.
Wait, horrible as a child. I'm sure you're horrible as an adult at it as well.
I'm sure I'm horrible as an adult. I have like a weird problem with like certain kind of puzzle games, like also like card games. I can never remember the rules.
Well, isn't it just a mathematic formula how to figure out the Rubik's Cube?
Hey, if I knew that, I'd be solving them right now. I wouldn't be talking to you.
You know, remember that Rubik's Cube phenomenon? Like there was actually like seminars where you could go and learn how to do a Rubik's Cube. That's how like big it was.
Yeah, I don't even understand. I can never understand like it's like I'm not making any forward progress, and I never will.
I thought it was a success just to get one side the same color. That was like that's the best I'm going to do.
That's incredible.
He's amazed by it.
I get like two of the same color, and then be like, oh, I had to lose one of them because I had to turn it again.
I also like the subtle. Well, some of them were over the top, but the references, like when we're first introduced to Frederick, the cowboy guy, and he's arm wrestling. Pretty much, it's like Indiana Jones wrestling, arm wrestling Mola Ram.
Oh, I didn't even get that reference, but I get it.
Yeah.
Now.
Oh, really? So it was subtle. I thought that was very overt. And then, like,
yeah, I didn't. I mean, I see it now because the guy's headpiece is like the same, but I didn't connect. I didn't really think of
he
it.
even had like the similar makeup. And
Yeah.
then the guy that tracks Apple and the kid down, he has like the same oversized straw hat as the guys from Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh yeah, okay, it's another.
And I don't know if this was deliberate or not, but one of the people in the pool when they're fighting, like the one guy looks a little like Leatherface or like Jason a little bit, and the other guy looks like Vega. He has like the claw on his hand. I don't know if that was deliberate or not.
I would have loved to. I would have loved to have seen
your 8 viewings, you retain nothing. What do you think of the no holds barred fight to the death pool battle?
I love it.
Pretty intense shit. You love it.
Yeah, it brought me back to the NES game Skate or Die.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that kind of had a similar worldview to this. I bet the hugging director from this film has really enjoyed the game Skate or Die in his life.
Oh, sure of it. I was thinking though, like Zeus, the supreme leader Zeus, he was cruel, but he was also kind of fair in some ways because he gave you a chance in that pool fight.
Yeah,
like you were allowed a weapon, and it was a 3-on-3. It's just that the other ones looked like they had some battleware to them. What happens if you win?
Well, it's lonely at the top.
Do you become one of his guys? Like,
I think
you get
so.
offered
Yeah.
a position.
Yeah, it's like a reality show. It's like, and you'll get a job offer from me.
Now, if you were thrown in that pit, in that pool, I have 2 questions for you. My first one is, what would your makeshift weapon be? And my second one would be, would you be able to kill someone?
I'll take the second part first, which is yes. Okay. And then the first part, kind of like a makeshift crossbow, I think I could make. I'd like to keep my distance, just how I don't like hugging. Sometimes I think about like murdering someone. I'm like, murdering someone's so intimate. That's like kind of gross.
I feel like you're like the T-1000, no complex machinery. There's no way you're making a makeshift crossbow.
That's true.
Basic knives and other sharp objects.
Basic knives and sharp objects.
But do you think you could kill someone? Like, all right, apocalypse happens, a week goes by, you get caught doing something, you're in a pool. Like, you didn't adjust yet.
Oh, yeah. I mean, early apocalypse, no. Day 5, yes.
Day 5.
We know time feels so different now.
Yeah.
It's like just like a week of something. You're like, oh man, it's always been like this. The apocalypse.
You know what I was thinking though? If it's like a scenario where the wasteland, beyond the wasteland, like society's still normal, and these people are just like isolated and they're not aware. Like the robots didn't make it that far.
It's like previous episode, We Are the Flesh.
That's true. Could be like that. Yeah, like you said before, though, we didn't really go into it. But Zeus is also an android, which we don't know.
Oh, yeah. But a great, I wouldn't call it a twist, but a great like escalation. Oh, yeah. Like the final battle is made interesting because it gets bigger.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder, like he survived getting shot in the face with an arrow. And then he survives getting hit with like the power glove.
And of course, played by Michael Ironside. I don't know if we mentioned that.
He's great in this movie. He has some good lines too. Like he's funny.
Yeah, he is. I was reading some IMDb reviews as part of my prep, and someone was like, a lot of the humor falls flat. And I was like, maybe a little bit of it does. But I mostly always found it pretty amusing.
Yeah, I did too.
And Rusty, the Turbo Kid finds a Viewmaster, or he has a Viewmaster. That's the name of this podcast.
That's a surprise. That's why I picked this movie.
And Viewmasters, now they're completely just like a retro object. But back in the day, they were like a form of entertainment.
Oh, yeah,
And it would even be a big deal when you get like the licensing. Like I'm reading that book about Charles Schultz and the Peanuts. And it's like when he licensed the stuff for Viewmasters, it was like a big deal. It was like they licensed a Peanuts Viewmasters reel.
I feel like there was a Viewmaster slide for everything, like any cartoon, any like event. But do you remember that like cardboard cylinder that the slides came in?
Yeah.
It was almost like the old Quaker oatmeal cardboard box things, but they had that like unique cardboard smell to them. Like when you pop that plastic top.
That's what they should have in nursing homes for like our generation. Assuming that we could still smell, like the person will be like, now I'm going to turn on the smell of muscle figures. You remember those? Like, yes, turn it on.
What's that therapeutic for?
Would you like to experience stinkor? No, I remember it. It was bad. He was an evil guy.
I love this
Can't believe
conversation.
I'm only 41 years old.
But the Turbo Kid with his slide, he has the dinosaur one.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be impressed?
I gotta say, when Apple's looking at the Viewmaster and she's looking at dinosaurs, dinosaurs suck now. The other day I was procrastinating and I was like, are velociraptors, were they even real? I was like, I never even heard about them when I was a kid. And so I was Googling that, and then it was like, oh, velociraptors were actually the size of a turkey, looked and acted like turkeys, except they had tails. And I was like, that's horrible. I hate dinosaurs being birds.
Everything we grew up learning about dinosaurs is like a lie.
Oh, yeah.
I remember those like books, and you would see like a Stegosaurus fighting a T-Rex, and like they never existed at the same time. They're like millions, like hundreds of millions of years apart.
It's just like when I thought they were giant lizards, it was like, oh my God, imagine that. But I actually can kind of picture like a big ostrich, and an ostrich is just not cool. It's never been a cool animal. No one thinks ostriches are cool.
That is true.
Like the coolest moment for ostriches was the game Joust.
The fly.
And that's not even, no one even thinks that's a cool, like everyone's like, that's okay game.
He's got such a beef with ostriches.
I didn't know I did. Woo.
I got an idea. If we get 10 reviews from this episode, we'll arrange to have you fight an ostrich on a future episode.
Wow.
Imagine you're in there face to face, staring down an ostrich coming at you.
Hey, it's emo versus emu. The fuck?
I feel like you would get fucking annihilated by an ostrich.
Oh yeah, dude. There's like just the way an ostrich's neck is. It's like if you punch an ostrich, it just like will absorb the blast and then just poke you in the eyeballs.
Did they have like sharp talons? I never looked at an ostrich foot. I assume it looks like kind of like a dinosaur's leg, right?
Yeah. I don't
know. Well, if we get 10 reviews, it might be in your future.
Ostriches are weird looking. I wonder if ostrich ever looks in the mirror, they're just like, what the fuck am I?
I don't know how to respond to that. In this movie, there's like references to arm wrestling. There's references to androids. Didn't you think when you were become an adult, they would be more prevalent in your life? Like makeshift weaponry?
Oh yeah.
I really thought
we all thought life was going to be so much different than it is.
Yeah. There's so many movies when we were growing up though that were based around androids, like Cherry 2000, Weird Science, Blade Runner. I really thought that was in the cards for us. Like, everybody just be married to androids. Like you don't have to worry about courting someone.
I just remember like reading Time magazine in like 1994, and it was like 6 robots will arrive very soon.
Yeah, they're still promising that. I don't know. You think you could settle down with a sex robot?
I think like the thing about robots is like they'll destroy the world just as computer programs before we ever get a chance to like have them as humanoid things.
Yeah. I don't know. They're already talking about nanotechnology destroying the planet. So we'll get on a bigger scale.
I'll believe that when I see it. Nanotechnology is like the flying car today.
Are you impressed with the future we were promised growing up? Are you just like?
I mean, in a lot of ways, now is so profoundly different than when we grew up.
Yeah.
Like in ways that like to us are mundane but are actually amazing. Like the way that you could instantly talk to anyone around the world and the way everyone's connected and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We take all that for granted.
The fact that
so like
just to think when we used to have to write a paper in school, we would have to research it at a library using like the card catalog.
Now, Rusty, we talked about that last episode. So
I have no memories.
It's a microfiche podcast.
Yeah.
that sound of like the that'd be like the intro.
Well, you know what's funny because Jen and I sometimes discuss how it's amazing that we have like what we wanted as a kid we have now, like the phone that's pretty much a TV source of information. You could talk to anybody, text people. If you told us in like 1987 that we would have that, it would blow our minds. We'd be like, no way. That's amazing. That's the best thing ever. And now we're just like, whatever.
The funniest twist is just like, you'll have all those things and you won't give a shit. And you'll take a toy for granted.
You only care if you don't have it.
Yeah, exactly. Like during like the Lost years where you could like get like retro shit, I was always like, oh my God, like I just want to play this NES game one more time. I just want to, and it's like, you could do all that in like 10 seconds, but you're just like, I don't even want to.
Yeah, I think we're spoiled now where we just expect things to be better. Like, remember dial up or like where you would download like a pornographic picture and it would take like 40 minutes?
I mean, oh yeah, oh my God.
And nowadays you can have everything within a second. It's just like, there's got to be something better coming. There's going to be a better means.
Yeah.
You're dumb. I think your brain's fried. We got to get you a new hard drive.
That was just like Apple, just like
yeah. Get some life back into it. Look at your arm. Where's your heart meter at?
Oh, I've been blinking since at least 2005. That's the crazy thing.
I don't even know how to follow that up.
I heard someone on the street the other day. They looked at me. They're like, "Oh man, I hope that guy's okay. He's one shot away from a KO."
He's the Clash Joe of the real world.
Sir, I don't mean to alarm you, but have you noticed that your eye is blinking?
Well, one big thing that we have to mention about this movie: tons of gore. Tons of gore, but pretty fun. I can see some people not being into it, but I think that the gore is always executed like in a fun way. And it's funny too. It's so ABCs of Death. It's so like of that era too. It's so not real because of how overblown it is.
Yeah. I mean, they make like a human centipede out of people, like where they get like bisected and their body parts go on top of another person and they get like stuck. I mean, it's so over the top.
It's not really a human centipede, but I'll allow it.
Whoa. Please clarify. Wait, please clarify to me what constitutes a human centipede.
This is part of my new show on Shudder, Horror Judge. Of course, the doctor was named Frankenstein. I don't know. Get me out of here. Get me out of here.
You had me. That was a great pitch.
It's like a Judge Judy show. It's like a Judge Judy show, but it's like, are you a moron? You're letting a vampire into your house. Then you're gonna blame the vampire? You're at fault here, lady. You invited him in. This is what I say to her.
I think you had a good pitch there. I think it works.
I think so.
But it's like the gore is never too gross. Like I was thinking about, because there's like a few parts where like intestines are flying around, and it made me think of Day of the Dead for some reason, which I know a lot of people love Day of the Dead, but I just find that gore. I don't want to look at that.
Why not? Does it make you hard?
A little bit.
What do you think about that scene though with Bagu where he's like strapped in the chair and his intestines are tied to that ribbon on the bicycle? Did that gross you out?
No, not really. I found that fun, but they must have. What a slow day it must have been to come up with that. Just sitting around. Hey, next time we get a guy, what if we hook up the bike to his intestines?
Did when you were a kid, did it upset you when you heard people play "What's Grosser Than Gross"?
Oh yeah. Oh my god. I still get traumatized by that. The trigger warning. What's grosser than gross? Sliding down a banister and then it becomes a razor blade. That still hurts. Yikes.
I remember one of the big ones, and everybody would be like, "Ugh," was what's grosser than gross? Jumping off the Empire State Building and getting your eyelid caught on a rusty nail. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah, you're fucked either way.
Yeah. It's always like the same thing. Always either razor blades or getting caught on a rusty nail.
Yeah, or like there's conjoined twins and one connected at the mouth and one vomits the other one's mouth. It's like, but they probably have experienced everything by then.
Yeah. I'm curious though, around the country, if like what's grosser than gross varies. Like we had the rusty nail and the razor blades. I wonder if there was something else like on the Northwest.
What's grosser than gross, dude? Putting on Nirvana and the only song you have is Slither, dude. Slither or Sliver. It's actually a good song, so I don't know why I chose that one, but like it was the heat of the moment.
Do you know that the directors make appearances in this movie?
No, I did not. Where?
The mother and father of Turbo Kid is two of them.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
And the ball guy that likes to hug, I believe he's in the scene where they're doing the arm wrestling over the blender, and he's the fire guy that was supposed to have the fire.
Oh, yeah. That's funny because I had a feeling about that guy.
Did you like the cowboy guy?
I like the cowboy guy because he's Australian.
But I heard he might be there with you right now.
When I finally saw the movie 1917 yesterday.
Oh yeah.
And the only other people in the movie behind me came in and they were Australian. And I was about to turn around and just be like, "Hey, Australia." And then I was like, I can't just say that. That's not a
sure they
thing
wouldn't
to
have
say.
cared.
They would have been like, "Oh yeah, mate, Australia."
Yeah, go on.
That's what we would have had it.
What about the cowboy guy though? What else did you like about him besides that he was Australian?
He's like, "All right, mate, I remember when you were in Australia made that episode about just one of the guys. Could have been a little better.
It took like 2 months to come out. It was just such a mediocre show.
Took like 2 months to come out. You had to be in that studio. Still like that place. That was a good place."
I forgot that you had to go to the studio twice.
Derek, shout out to Derek. He probably still listens.
You think so?
He liked it.
No,
he listened
good.
to the Willow episode. He had a great time. It was a good episode, though. Willow's a good episode. We got to get back to that level someday.
This could be it. It's like Spaceballs, dude. It's like right now.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned Willow having a good NES game.
Mm-hmm.
Someone should make, if they haven't already, like a retro Turbo Kid NES game.
Oh, that would be awesome. Oh, that would be really cool.
Does the angry video game nerd know about this film? I feel like he'd like this movie. Someone break into his house and throw a Blu-ray at him.
Well, it's on Netflix. You could just write him an email.
This was a home invasion that traumatized my family. All to recommend a film.
Yeah, I don't know if he's aware of it. He's got to be.
Yeah.
You call yourself the angry video game nerd. You got to be aware of Turbo Kid.
That's true. I almost said Turtle Kid. That would have been a good movie too. I'm Turtle Kid. I'm going so slow. Turbo Kid's getting all my press, but I'll get there eventually.
I can't believe you picked up that I almost said Turtle Kid.
I'm always looking out for people almost saying turtle. Oh, I get to do my voice again. Slow down. I'm slow. I'm a Turtle Kid.
Were you surprised that Apple dies in the end?
I was, actually, because I had forgotten it. And when I was watching it again, I was like, oh, wait, he just buried the Australian guy. And now his ghost is saying, like, it's going to be okay, kid. And then he's going to ride off with Apple. And I was like, oh, wait, no, it's Apple who died. That annoyed me just because I was like, Apple survived so many, like, insane death experiences.
Well, my theory is that she's not really dead because in that last scene, he's still wearing like the tracker thing on his hand, on his wrist. So I think for the sequel that it's going to start beeping again and she's going to find him.
Okay, yeah, that'd be good.
I mean, she didn't sign on yet. So far, the only person that's confirmed is Monroe Chambers, who is the kid. But I'm sure she'll be back.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Apple.
Yeah, that's true.
You know how Apple's origin story is that she's from the other side of the wasteland, and she comes across and is friends with this water seeker, and he winds up dying. How long do you think he was dead for?
Probably around a month.
And that's this week's science segment with Eddie D.
Yeah. Well, no. Have you ever heard about that place they have like to investigate dead bodies, how they decompose?
Yeah.
It's like
it's in Texas, right?
I think it's like in Tennessee or somewhere like that.
Yeah,
it's definitely a place that gets hot and gross.
Yeah. You could
Maybe
watch
it's
video.
Louisiana.
You can watch videos.
Oh, I would love to masturbate to that. Is that on Pornhub or? But yeah, I set that up in my apartment. My neighbors are pissed. I'm like, dude, come on. I've only got 3 bodies in here, and they're all in different states. I said to the doctor guy, I was like, you took your kids to the King Tut exhibit. This is the same thing. And he said, it's not the same thing.
That's how you do your leather working shop.
Yeah. Remember that Body Worlds thing? I'm like, that's the same thing. I got Body World satellite location.
Now, Ed, how did you get these bodies? Were they donated to you?
Oh yeah, no, this is just like when you're really low on like the donor chart. Like sometimes they don't need someone's. I don't know what I'm saying.
I don't know, but I like what I'm hearing.
I'm so pissed, man. The morgue never CCs me on emails anymore.
I don't know what people are thinking right now.
You know, see, they when the morgue CCs you on email, it stands for cold cadaver. Oh boy. Hey, slow down.
I was about to say, can I just say turtle again? Oh man.
Man, I was so pissed the other day. I heard some bullshit, man. I heard some real bullshit.
What did you hear?
Well, let me tell you something. Did you watch the Hannah Gatsby special, Nanette?
No, but you mentioned it to me.
Well, watch her new special, Douglas, and you'll see me in the audience, and I'm on the aisle, so I might be visible. And there was one section in the special where she says that turtles have flippers and tortoises have like legs. I never heard anything more wrong in my life. I almost stormed the stage.
Imagine that was part of the special.
It was a security incident. Except I was going really slow, so I was like, I'm coming. Hannah, here I come. Australia.
I really feel like a new character was just born on the show.
Oh, boy.
It's like,
I don't know if I have legs or not. Oh, that's a joke.
Episode 80, people were like, I remember they used to talk about being bald. Now they just talk about Ed being a turtle. Were you impressed by the kid's arsenal? Like, he adapted and improvised. I'm sure you made your fair share growing up of makeshift weaponry. Did you approve, or could he have learned a lot more from you?
No, I approved. He's I mean, he's not on the level of the buzzsaw shooting device. That's like what I really aspire to.
But if you approve, what would you have? Like, I know we touched on it earlier, but never quite said.
See, what I love to do is like double a weapon, but it'd be pretty impractical, like a double-sided axe. Like there's an axe on both sides.
That would be heavy though, right?
Yeah, I just feel like it wouldn't be that great to wield. But look at me using a word like wield. Now you know I fucking know how to use weapons.
This is my gnome stick! Ah! Ah!
You know, I think I've said before, though, on this podcast that history's great underrated weapon is the spear. So really, I should just make a spear and like make it like 80 feet long so I can stay out of conflict.
I feel like I would go with something cool like a Morning Star, but did they even do anything?
No, I don't think those were ever real.
No,
Yeah.
they're cool in theory though.
Yeah, definitely cool in theory.
What's that thing called? That like the Grim Reaper has? That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. A scythe? A
scythe.
Like, I used
Yeah.
to think it was a sickle as a kid. It was such a, I lost my innocence on the day I found out it was a scythe.
Yes, sickle's the handheld little one.
Yeah.
We should have learned that from the USSR flag.
That's really true. I should have learned that from that.
Where were you during the Cold War? What were you doing?
I was hiding under my desk with Turtle Kid. Hey, room for one more. We can talk down here. I can always pull inside my shell.
The one thing I like about this movie, there's not any moments where it's annoying. Like the characters don't do anything that's just like, ugh, lame.
And it just flows pretty well. I mean, we haven't really talked about the plot because there's not much of a plot. It's kind of like Turbo Kid meets Apple. She gets kidnapped. He gets her back. Then they kind of have like the final confrontation. And then there's also the Australian guy's storyline where his brother has been kidnapped and killed by Zeus.
I mean,
but it's kind of like it's almost like a hangout movie in a way.
It's funny because there's like this random things inserted too, but like they don't take away from anything. Like just when he's doing BX tricks, like why would he be doing that in this world? But I like it. It's like a little.
Oh yeah, or like when the merchant guy kind of later in the movie comes with his like wares, and she like releases like the fireworks thing, not fireworks, but like what do you call those things?
Like
Poppers, and they send like confetti in the air, and she's like, "Whoa!" And he's like, "Why did you do that?" And it's like, why is this even happening? But it's just kind of a fun moment.
Now the movie takes place in 1997. Do we know?
Oh yeah, the opening narration where it's like, "This is the future. The year is 1997."
Yeah,
I really enjoyed.
But when did the apocalypse happen? Do we?
It
had to be sometime in the 80s because that's
that.
where like, I guess culture kind of stopped. So
yeah, I could see it being like 1988.
Yeah, so the character Bagu, who's the trader, he has to know the old world, right? So I mean, like some of his wares, he has to know the relevance behind them, right? Is that why he's the barter? Like the shit that Kid brings in to trade for water. Like he knows that the comic book, like he knows of it. That's what, and he knows that would be interesting to the kid, right? Do you know what I'm saying?
What's up?
What I'm trying to say is that certain people know of the world beforehand, right? So they didn't magically forget. Like they know the pop culture references. They know like the materials. Like to the kid, that's just cool shit that he's finding.
Oh yeah, I mean, which is funny too because it mimics like when you're a little kid and you would find like the artifacts, you know, like my brother's like Battlestar Galactica toys, where I was just like, "What is this? It looks like Star Wars, but it's shittier."
That is interesting though because that time period you didn't know what that stuff was.
Look at all of these. It's like a museum of coolness in here.
What are your thoughts on the big twist at the end with Zeus's speech?
I love it.
Okay.
Oh, what should I have more analysis?
Yeah.
You know, it was like Zeus had to go to another level. We've seen Apple. We've seen a good robot. We need to see a bad robot. And I bet if I was there in the premiere when this movie premiered, people were fucking losing their shit.
You would have been in the
off
aisle.
the screen, attacking each other with knives, flipping people over the rows of seats.
I could picture you just storming up and down the aisle.
Yeah, start marching with my oh my god. Michael Ironside's like, calm down, damn it.
Zeus controls this wasteland through the distribution of water, but the water we find out comes from people. A little Soylent Green aspect to it.
Oh yeah, actually, that's way more of a Dune ripoff.
Oh really?
Because in Dune, they're always like turning people into water. So that's definitely a Dune reference.
Oh really? Interesting. But when Zeus is explaining the juicing process, and he's saying how like there's 10 gallons of water in a person, and he breaks down like each organ and how much water is in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, like, is that possible? Is there really 10 gallons of water in a person? And the answer is there's roughly probably around 16 pounds of water, or 16 gallons of water. Not pounds, gallons.
16 gallons. Okay. As a former pet store employee, I have to think about this in fish tank terms. That's a lot of water. I don't understand it because, I used to think as a little kid that you went to heaven and God, who looked like George Washington, would answer any questions you had. And I used to be like, oh, the questions, I'd be like, is the Loch Ness Monster real? Now I'd say, God would say, do you have any questions? I'd say, yeah, God, how come I weigh myself, I get on, then I pee for hours, I weigh myself again, same weight. He's like, that's the question?
This sounds like a mystery that we need to solve. I'm calling a detective agency in the morning and telling them I got a hot case for you. I'll pay you anything. Wow. Just find out why my friend's not losing weight after peeing.
This sounds like a job for Encyclopedia Yellow. Encyclopedia Yellow.
I would just hope that there's somebody like living inside your walls that while you're sleeping, they're like putting water into you. You wake up in the morning so disappointed.
Oh my God. That's the only way that I could get hydrated. I've been drinking so little water.
But you pee like crazy, right?
Yeah, I'm just wasting away. Well, it's Monster Energy.
Oh, okay.
My blood is Monster Energy these days, which is extreme.
That is extreme.
And also sexual.
It's quite the endorsement. Were you a little bummed that your man Skeletron got killed?
No, Skeletron had to die. We knew that.
Yeah, he's just so evil. You really relished other people.
I was more bummed about Apple, but I'm sure they're bringing her back. And neither of us watched that short. I might watch that after this.
Yeah, I feel like though when Apple finally died, though, I was just like okay with it because they teased it 2 other times. It was like if they do it a third time and pull that rug from under our feet one more time. But she did die in like the I don't know, was the least credible way. Like the other one seemed like more legit.
I wonder about this movie. If we'd seen this at like 10 years old, I'm sure we'd have liked it. But would we have loved it without the nostalgia angle, or would it just have been like so connected to our lives that we were into it? Because it does remind me of like the way that the kid has like the map of the wasteland, where it is mostly a practical. Because like this is an early scene where they're riding, and Apple is like yelling, and then he stops the bike and he's like, "Listen." Like, and he tells her like the rules of the wasteland. Although I kind of think he should have spelled out like, don't yell. Like I kind of didn't like, I wish they had said like, you gotta be quiet here. But because it seems like he's stopping to scold her about that, but he never mentions that. And she is a robot. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. Anyway, though, but the way he shows her the map and the way he tells her the rules, it's totally practical, but it's also like such a kid thing you would do. Like when I was a little kid, the one curve around my block I called Devil's Bend because I had once, I think I told this story before, but I had once lost like a plastic pitchfork, the end of a plastic pitchfork in this guy's hedges. It wasn't even Halloween, like a devil costume pitchfork. And I used to go back to those bushes all the time and like look for it, and the guy would be like, the little kid's back in the bushes. He's like, it's not there. And I'm like, I lost my pitchfork. But first of all, that's such a product of our time that like now I think an adult should find that charming. Instead, this guy was like, you little rat,
get
run.
off my property, you little bastard.
But making a map like that is such like a kid thing.
What about the journal he has where he like draws a picture of her too?
Oh, dude, I want to buy that at auction for $1 million.
You know, to answer your question though, if we saw this when we were 10 years old, it's interesting because I don't know. Like some of the look is I would have been into in some of this stuff, but like other movies like Solar Babies I wasn't into as a kid.
I
Yeah.
hated Solar Babies as a kid. For some reason, the licensing rights or whatever must have been cheap for that movie because Channel 11 was always just like, let's run Solar Babies again. It's 3 p.m. on a Saturday. And I'm
And
like,
that
oh,
has that like wasteland look to it. Like this like one
it
set.
does.
It's just like they obviously made it.
It's so weird because even as like a little kid, I think that was the first time I was aware of like the audience when I was just like, oh, who is this even for? It's like called Solar Bait. It's like not for kids, but it's not. It's like this.
The
Who
only thing I
made
liked
this?
about it was what's her name? Jamie Gers.
Oh yeah,
But I feel like there's elements to the movie that would have definitely been attractive to me. Like you said, Turbo Kid would have been more appealing to us. This movie would have been a great advertisement for the Power Glove. Like,
oh yeah.
especially as a kid. Like, I already wanted one as a kid, and if I saw this, dude, I would
mean,
have
this is
gone on
the
some
only
adventures.
time I've wanted one. Like, this is the only thing that has made it cool for me. So I might. It's like I would buy a Power Glove now, except that it'd be putting on like the Hulk's pants because like I'm sure it's too small for me. My hand would just get stuck on it, and then I was like walking around. Like my neighbors are like, "You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can't get it off. I'm gonna get if I just pee enough and lose some weight, I'll get this glove off." You know, it's a shame they only made the Power Glove for one hand though, because now I can't convert myself to a full cyborg. If I could, it'd be amazing if I could have it on both hands. I connect a virtual boy to my face.
I was just
walking down the street in downtown LA.
with a laser
Okay.
tag vest.
I see what this guy's going for. I don't know why he's going for it.
Yeah, but your legs are so exposed. You don't have anything on the legs.
Honey, this is what I told you about. People are getting too into retro bullshit. They can't face reality. Look at this guy. He's got a fucking virtual boy duct taped to his face. He's like in a coffee shop. Like, look at that guy he's like working on his laptop in a coffee shop. Honey, that's actually a U-Force. That's not a laptop.
I feel like if you had two Power Gloves on, they would be either broken or incredibly dirty within a week.
Oh yeah.
So overall, what did you think of Turbo Kid? Would you recommend it?
I give this my highest possible recommendation.
This might be one of my favorite movies we watched so far. Although I can't recall any episodes we've done to date, so I don't know. But I really enjoy this movie.
This would be a great movie to have on in the background at like a hip party.
Yeah. You know what I like about this movie? Like, much like those 80s classics that we grew up with that you could just put on anytime and watch it, like this movie could be on and I would just enjoy it. Like, I don't think it would get old.
Yeah.
So my highest endorsement.
I wish more services let you have like a playlist and you could just have a playlist running.
That would be cool. Yeah. So this would be on your playlist?
Yeah, big time. I put all of the films on the playlist, every movie we've covered, and I have running all the time. And you know what the fucked up thing is? I still wouldn't be able to remember anything from any of them.
Me too. Wait, if you had to cut one though, what would it be? Cut in class?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I feel like Highway to Hell. I don't think I could watch again.
I'm not sure that I want We Are the Flesh playing on a loop in my house. So the new neighbor telling me about a playlist he had. Get this, We Are the Flesh. Remember that, honey? Remember that Mexican movie we saw at the festival? You remember the guy, the old man trying to convince the brother and sister to fuck each other?
Well, that's Turbo Kid, everyone.
That's Turbo Kid, everybody.
We'll be back with
Episode. The next episode, Ghoulies. Some old friends that we're going to be dropping in.
I think
or popping up. Yes.
We'll be looking in the mirror and seeing that. But yeah, I'm excited for that one. I haven't seen that one in a very, very long time.
I think you're going to enjoy it. I've already watched it several times, and it's more fun than you might think.
I like what I'm hearing already. All right. Well, we'll see you.
Please rate and review. Bye.